My teen son disrespected me at dinner and idolized his crypto stepdad, but I taught him a shocking lesson that exposed the truth about real success. My 17-year-old son disrespected me after I treated him to dinner and built him a 1967 Impala. The kid wanted a Tesla, said the Impala would embarrass him, and then started comparing me to his stepdad. So I gave him a reality check. I'm not raising a spoiled brat. Here's what went down. 2 years ago, Amanda decided I, a 47-year-old man, wasn't cutting it financially. She told me I lacked vision and ambition. We have joint custody of Connor, who's 17 and apparently thinks he's living in a Drake video now. Amanda bounced back fast, marrying this crypto dude named Chad. About a year later, the guy, who's 35, drives a leased Model S and wears $200 hoodies to parent-teacher conferences like he's some Silicon Valley hotshot. I make $85,000 as a senior mechanical engineer, own my house free and clear, and bought it after the 2008 crash when everyone panicked. My 401k could fund 2 retirements. Connor doesn't know about the sacrifices I made after the divorce. I could have gotten myself a bachelor pad downtown, but instead bought a house in the best school district my budget could handle. That meant 90% extra minutes commuting daily and eating ramen while stretching that mortgage payment. The overtime I worked for Connor's activities would make your head spin. Travel baseball at 14 cost $3,000 for registration plus $2,000 for gear, hotels, and gas. Driving all over Texas every weekend. I picked up consulting work and missed my buddy's bachelor party in Vegas just to cover it. Amanda acted like this was standard dad duty. Here's what still makes my eyes twitch. I sold my mint 1969 Camaro SS to pay for Connor's appendectomy when Amanda's insurance played games with the claim. That car was worth $35,000 and was my retirement project. I could have fought the insurance for months while my kids suffered or handled it myself. It was an easy choice, but I missed that Camaro every day. I started restoring a 1967 Impala SS I found rusting in some farmer's barn. About $15,000 and 3 years deep, it's becoming something beautiful. My older brother, Matt, and I co-own the garage where we do all our restoration work. He's been my business partner since we bought the place 5 years ago. Matt's the type who calls it like he sees it, no filter, and he's been watching this whole drama unfold with Connor. The garage itself is our sanctuary, 3,000 square feet of organized chaos. We've got a full machine shop in the back, with a Bridgeport mill and South Bend lathe that can fabricate anything you need. Connor used to love helping. The kid could identify engine sounds by ear at 12, and knew torque specs for common bolts by 14. We'd spend Saturdays in the garage, and he'd brag to friends about building a real muscle car with Pops. The Impala was supposed to be his graduation present, something we built together from a rust bucket to a showpiece. By 15, Connor could rebuild a Rochester Quadrajet carburetor, understood gear ratios and final drive calculations, and knew why you run different viscosity oil in summer versus winter. We were planning to swap in a rebuilt 396 big block we'd been collecting parts for over 2 years. Those were good times. Before Amanda started her campaign, Matt noticed the change in Connor before I did. Kids started showing up to the garage talking about Tesla's superior engineering and asking why we bothered with outdated technology. Your boy's been drinking some expensive Kool-Aid, Matt warned me one day. Kid used to get excited about a clean valve cover. Now he's asking why we don't just buy electric. The change was subtle at first. Connor would still help but made comments about how electric motors were more efficient and how internal combustion engines were basically 1800s technology. He started wearing designer streetwear to the garage instead of work clothes, afraid to get dirt on his expensive t-shirts. Amanda started subtle. The woman's got a PhD in passive-aggressive manipulation. Little comments during pickup were designed to cut deep but sound innocent. Connor, shower when you get to Chad's. You smell like motor oil. Or, well, it's so nice. Connor, finally, as a proper male role model, someone who actually achieves things. Chad was explaining how successful men think differently. Fascinating psychology. She was glowing every time she delivered these shots. She'd gotten her upgrade and wanted everyone to know it. Amanda went full social media warrior, posting Instagram stories daily of expensive dinners and weekend trips to Dallas and Austin with captions like, "Finally living my best life and grateful for a partner who understands success." She was broadcasting to our social circle that she'd traded up from her boring engineer ex. Matt took one look at her page and muttered, "She's out here hashtagging success like it's a personality trait. Bet she thinks filters can cover debt." He wasn't wrong. Connor started returning different gradually, like rust spreading. Chad's car drives itself. "Dad, Your Impala doesn't even have backup cameras. Chad says mechanical engineering is getting automated. AI is going to replace most of that. Chad took us to this steakhouse where they dry-age beef for 60 days. He said, "Successful people don't stress about money when taking care of family." Amanda would smirk during these exchanges, watching her programming take effect. Matt saw one of her posts and said, "She's one pyramid scheme away from selling shampoo in people's DMs. She was turning my kid into a messenger." Connor would casually drop information about Chad's portfolio performance and his multiple revenue streams, parroting crypto bro talking points without understanding any of it. Chad talks like he read half a Gary V quote and passed out from self-confidence. When Connor first compared me directly to Chad, I shut it down. "Connor, Chad's not your father. I am. You can respect what he does without disrespecting me." Clear? He backed off temporarily, but Amanda kept working. She knew exactly what I'd sacrificed, but was rewriting history to make me look like a loser compared to her crypto prince. At Connor's baseball games, she'd make comments loud enough for other parents to hear, about how some fathers prioritize their hobbies over providing for their children. The manipulation got more targeted. She started scheduling Connor's time to minimize our garage sessions. Suddenly, he had study groups every Saturday, or Chad was taking him to networking, events where successful men shared business insights with younger generations. When Connor hit 16 last year, Amanda orchestrated this production around getting him wheels. She brought it up at his birthday dinner, which I was paying for. Connor, Chad, and I discussed transportation for junior year. We're thinking something reliable and appropriate. Maybe a BMW 3 Series or Audi A3, something that makes the right impression. Connor's face lit up, Amanda watching my reaction. She knew I couldn't afford luxury for a teenager, and was setting me up to look cheap. I offered Connor the Impala once restoration was finished. The kid's face dropped like I'd offered a horse and buggy. Amanda actually laughed. Connor needs something that won't embarrass him at school. The disrespect was casual, comfortable. She was treating me like Connor's broke uncle instead of his father. Connor just sat there, nodding along. Connor's got two options: drive the classic muscle car his father restored or save for his own ride. Amanda jumped in. That hardly seems fair. Connor shouldn't choose between no transportation and a project car that might not be reliable. Connor chose option 3, crying to mom about his unreasonable father. The kid who used to understand that reliability comes from proper maintenance and quality. Work was now worried about being seen in anything that wasn't badge-engineered status. Amanda called that night, trying again. "I understand your budget constraints, but Connor's social development matters." Chad offered to help because he genuinely cares about Connor's future. I told her Connor would be lucky to drive that Impala. If she wanted him in something newer, she could write the check. That's exactly the limited thinking that held our marriage back. Thank God Connor has Chad to show him actual success. She had Connor convinced that driving a classic muscle car would somehow damage his social standing when most gearheads would kill for a numbers-matching 1967. 2 weeks later, Connor called with amazing news. Chad would co-sign for a used BMW if I handled monthly payments. When I said absolutely not, Connor got that bratty teenager attitude. "Why can't you be more like Chad? He gets what young people need. Mom says you're just bitter because Chad makes more than you ever will." Wrong thing to say. I sat Connor down for an economics education, but not before Matt overheard the conversation from the garage office. He came out, wiping his hands on a shop rag, shaking his head. Co-signing for a spoiled kid's BMW? "That's some next-level stupidity right there," Matt said, looking directly at Connor. "Your stepdad's about to learn what happens when crypto bros meet reality. Kid, you want a car? Earn it. Your dad's offering you a genuine classic that'll be worth twice what any BMW depreciates to." Connor shifted uncomfortably. Matt had this way of cutting through nonsense that made people squirm. He pulled out his phone and showed Connor completed listings on Bring a Trailer. "Look here, smartass. This 1967 Impala SS sold for $42,000 last month. Your precious BMW 3 Series, 5 years old with 60,000 miles, is worth maybe $18,000, and dropping fast." Connor tried arguing Chad was building generational wealth through cryptocurrency investments. I asked if Chad showed him portfolio statements, or if he was repeating sales pitches. Connor went quiet fast. Matt just shook his head and went back to work, muttering about kids who couldn't tell the difference between assets and liabilities. If Chad had a dime for every buzzword he dropped, he still couldn't cover a tire rotation, Matt added, reaching for a wrench. "Son, Chad's 35 and rents a room. I'm 47, own my house free and clear with zero debt except my mortgage. Chad talks crypto gains while I've got actual money earning actual interest in actual banks. You think flashy spending equals wealth, but you need to learn the difference between looking rich and being rich. The lecture wasn't sinking in. Connor was too deep in Amanda and Chad's programming to see reality. The breaking point came at Morton's, a place that charges $60 for beef. Connor had been mostly respectful through dinner, but something shifted around dessert. He started getting this attitude, making little comments about the restaurant being actually nice for once. Then he launched into a speech about Chad planning a spring break in Hawaii for their family unit. I asked who was covering this Hawaiian vacation. Connor got defensive, like I was being unreasonable asking about finances. Chad's handling it as an investment in family experiences. Unlike some people who think Applebee's is fine dining, the Applebee's comment was pure Amanda. I put my fork down. Excuse me? Connor doubled down, voice getting louder. Other tables started looking over. He was channeling Amanda's condescending energy perfectly. Dad, you're completely stuck in the past. Chad understands what young people actually need. You want to keep me trapped in your little bubble, working on old cars and shopping at Walmart like we're poverty level. He kept going, voice rising with each sentence. You act like fixing up some rusty old car is this amazing gift, but everybody at school thinks classic cars are just for old guys who can't afford new ones. Chad gets that image matters. That perception is reality in the modern world. The privilege was staggering. Here was my kid, sitting in a restaurant that cost more than most families spend on groceries in a month, wearing clothes I bought, criticizing me for not spending enough money on him. At least Mom found someone who isn't a complete failure. Dead silence. Connor had this smirk, thinking he'd just delivered a badass mic drop. The server appeared at exactly the wrong moment, asking if we wanted more drinks. I signaled for the check instead, paid in cash, left 25% because the server didn't deserve family drama, and told Connor we were leaving. The drive home was silent except for engine noise, and Connor shifting like he was realizing he'd crossed an uncrossable line. At my house, I told him to pack. He was going back to his mother's early. Dad, come on, I didn't mean it like that. Connor, you called me a failure in public after I took you to a $200 dinner, while I pay for your phone, clothes, insurance, and everything else you need. Clearly, you don't need anything from a failure like me. I drove Connor straight to Amanda's. When she asked why he was back early, I explained exactly what happened. Amanda tried brushing it off as normal teenage drama, but I shut that down. Amanda, your son publicly disrespected me while I was treating him to dinner. If that's the behavior you're encouraging, he can stay there until he learns basic manners. Her response was pure venom. Maybe Connor's tired of pretending his father is something he's not. Children see through fake success eventually. The irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. Monday morning, I made calls. First, Verizon. I suspended Connor's line on my family plan. The kid had been racking up over $150 in monthly bills, downloading games and streaming videos. Second, Connor's school. I removed myself as emergency contact and authorized pickup person. Third, the bank. I canceled his emergency Visa card that he'd been using for daily Starbucks runs and Uber Eats orders. Fourth call went to my insurance agent. I removed Connor from my auto policy if Chad wanted to play. Daddy, he could handle the $300 monthly premium for insuring a teenage driver. I wasn't cutting necessities. Connor had food, shelter, and transportation at his mother's, but the extras from Dad were gone. Connor's phone died by noon Monday. Amanda called that evening, losing her mind. What did you do to Connor's phone? He's having a complete meltdown. I explained that Connor made it clear he didn't respect or need me, so I removed myself from his support system. If Chad was such an amazing provider, he could prove it with his wallet. You can't abandon your son over one argument. I'm not abandoning anyone. Connor's got whatever he needs at your place. He just doesn't get perks from having a father he disrespects. Tuesday brought panicked calls. Connor's credit card got declined buying lunch. He had to eat cafeteria food instead of the $15 sandwich shop he was used to. His phone was dead, so he couldn't call Uber when baseball practice ran late. He had to catch the bus like a regular human being. Wednesday, she called with Chad on speaker. This was going to be good. Chad's voice came through, cocky as ever. Listen, man, Connor doesn't need a father like you anyway. Kid needs someone who can actually provide and show him real success. Is that right? Damn straight. I've already ordered Connor an iPhone 15 Pro and got him on my plan. Kid's getting an allowance that's probably more than you spend on groceries. Connor doesn't need your little games. Amanda was practically purring. Chad's right. Connor deserves better than your petty power trips I told Chad he was. Welcome to be Connor's sugar daddy if it made him feel important. Let's see how long your crypto gains hold up when you're actually spending real money instead of talking about it. Money's not an issue for me, buddy, unlike some people. We'll see about that, Chad. But before Chad's money ran out, Connor got a taste of what being broke actually looked like. Week 1 without my support hit differently than expected. The kid found out real quick what happens when the safety net disappears. The first reality check came Thursday when Connor's friend Jake offered to drive everyone to a party. Connor couldn't pitch in for gas because his card was dead, and he had exactly $3 in cash. Jake made jokes about Connor's broke phase in front of their whole friend group. Connor had to sit there and take it. Friday was worse. Baseball practice ended late, and Connor had no ride. He tried borrowing phones to call Chad or Amanda, but Chad was in meetings, and Amanda was at work. He waited 2 hours for the late bus, sitting alone on the school steps like some freshman nobody. His teammates saw him there when their parents picked him up the weekend, brought more humiliation. Connor's crew wanted to hit the mall on Saturday, but he couldn't even afford food court lunch. He had to watch his friends spend money while he nursed a single pretzel for 3 hours. When they went to GameStop, Connor had to admit he couldn't buy the new NBA 2K game everyone was getting. The kid was learning that actions have consequences, and some bridges burn fast when you disrespect the person paying for everything. The next month, Chad went full showboat. Connor got that iPhone, designer clothes, and daily Tesla rides to school. Chad posted Instagram stories of expensive restaurants with captions like, "Real. Men step up when others fail in teaching young men about actual success." Connor stopped contacting me completely. Amanda was posting pictures of her boys at sporting events, shopping trips, and weekend getaways, announcing to the world she'd successfully replaced me as Connor's father figure. 3 weeks in, Chad made a show of taking Connor suit shopping, posting pictures at Men's Warehouse of Connor in a $400 suit with a caption about investing in a young man's future. The comments were pure cringe, with Amanda's friends praising Chad for stepping up where I had failed. But cracks started showing around week 4. Connor's Instagram still showed expensive meals and Tesla rides, but Chad's posts about their adventures suddenly dropped off. Amanda's social media went quieter too. Matt caught wind of this through his network of gearheads. Turns out, one of his buddies works at the Tesla dealership where Chad leased his Model S. According to insider information, Chad had been making minimum payments and was already behind by 2 months. "Your boy's sugar daddy is leveraged up to his eyeballs," Matt reported during one of our evening garage sessions, guys living on credit and crypto gains that don't exist. When reality hits, it's going to be epic. Then Connor called using Amanda's phone one evening. His voice was different, less cocky, more confused. "Hey, Dad, can I ask something? Chad's been acting weird. He paid for all this stuff the first few weeks, but now when Mom asks him to cover things, he gets irritated." "What kind of things?" "Like, my car insurance payment was due, and Mom asked Chad to handle it since he said money wasn't an issue. But he went off about expensive teenage drivers and maybe I should ride the bus more. What else? He used to drive me to school every morning, but now says it's out of his way and I should catch rides. When Mom suggested another shopping trip, Chad said I had enough clothes. So Chad's sugar daddy routine was getting expensive, and his crypto portfolio wasn't covering the bills." "Connor, how much money do you think Chad's actually spent on you this month?" The kid went quiet, probably doing math. "Maybe like $2,000. The phone, clothes, dinners, that suit, and he's been bragging about being successful enough to handle all your expenses." "Yeah, but lately he keeps talking about market volatility and liquidity issues when Mom brings up money stuff." The kid was connecting dots. "Dad, I heard Chad on the phone yesterday about his car payment. Sounded like he was asking for an extension. Shocker." "Hey, I know you're still mad at me, but..." "Shut up, Connor." "Okay." Chad was learning that being a father figure involves consistent expenses, not just occasional grand gestures. The Instagram lifestyle was expensive when you actually had to pay for it instead of just posing for pictures. Connor also told me he heard his mom and Chad arguing yesterday about budgeting, and Chad said stuff about unexpected expenses around the same time Chad's money started drying up. Amanda faced her own reality check. She'd been telling everyone at her office about her successful husband, showing off expensive gifts and vacation photos like some corporate influencer. Things went sideways when Amanda's supervisor pulled her aside about a promotion opportunity. "A big client needs someone to manage their portfolio, and you've been talking up Chad's financial expertise for months since your husband's so successful in investments. Maybe he could consult on the Richardson project." The client's looking for fresh perspectives on crypto integration. She froze. She'd painted Chad as this financial guru, but couldn't risk her boss discovering he was broke. She had to make excuses about Chad being too busy with current commitments to take on new clients. Word spread fast in Amanda's office. People started asking why Chad wouldn't help with such a lucrative opportunity. Amanda's carefully constructed image began crumbling when she couldn't produce her supposed crypto expert for actual work. 6 weeks into this drama, Connor showed up at the garage unannounced on a Saturday. I was balancing the books in the office while Matt worked under the hood of a 1973 Chevelle. Connor looked stressed. "Dad, things are getting really weird. Chad's acting totally different, and Mom's frustrated with him." "How does that concern me, kid?" I replied. "Dad, please." Matt slid out from under the hood, wiping his hands. "Let me guess. Crypto Prince is running out of fake money. Different how?" I asked Connor. "Remember how he was buying me stuff and taking me places? Now when Mom asks him to pay for anything, he gets snippy. Yesterday she asked him to cover my dentist appointment, and he went off about expensive dental work." Matt snorted. "Told you Instagram ain't a resume, kid. Guy was all flash, no cash. Also, Chad's Tesla actually got repossessed last week. He told Mom it was temporary financial restructuring, but I saw repo guys take it at 6 a.m. Now he's driving this beat-up car that belongs to his roommate." Matt nodded like he expected it. Tesla went back to Elon's toy chest. Guess reality's electric, too. Then he looked up from the Chevelle. "So, let me get this straight. Mr. Success lost his car and can't afford to keep spoiling you anymore." Connor nodded, looking embarrassed. The kid was finally seeing Chad for what he really was, a broke poser who'd been living beyond his means to impress people. "Kid, your dad saw through this clown from day one. Maybe next time, listen to people who actually know what they're talking about." Chad's whole lifestyle was performance. Now that he'd committed to supporting Connor financially, cracks were showing everywhere. The expensive dinners stopped, the shopping trips ended, and Chad started making excuses about why Connor couldn't come around certain days. But here's the really messed up part. Last night, Chad and Mom had this huge fight, and Chad said stuff that really bothered me. "What kind of stuff?" Connor's voice dropped, like he was making sure Amanda couldn't hear. "Mom was asking Chad to help with my car insurance again, and he lost it. Started yelling about how he's not responsible for someone else's brat and Mom needs to figure out her own financial problems. He said he never signed up to be a father to some other guy's kid and spending money on. Me was throwing good money after bad because I'd probably end up a failure like you." Matt straightened up and threw his wrench down. "That piece of garbage said what?" My blood was boiling, but I kept calm. "And what do you think about all this?" "Honestly, I feel like an idiot. Chad was never trying to be my stepdad. He was just trying to prove he was better than you. Now that it's costing real money, he doesn't want anything to do with me," he continued. "Mom's been crying a lot. She keeps apologizing about Chad, saying she didn't know he was like this." Matt grabbed a drink from the garage fridge and popped it open. "Kid, your mom chose flash over substance. Happens all the time. What do you want, Connor?" Long pause. "I want to come home. Like, actually home. I'm tired of being caught in Mom and Chad's drama, and I miss working on the Impala with you." Matt smiled for the first time all day. About damn time. It was the first time Connor called my house home since the divorce. The kid was finally ready to admit he'd made a mistake choosing sides based on who spent more money on him. "I also owe you a huge apology. I know I said awful things at that restaurant, and I've been thinking about it every day. You've always been there for me, and I acted like a spoiled brat because Mom and Chad were filling my head with garbage. I told him he could come over that weekend, and we'd talk. But before that happened, Connor proved he was ready to change in a way that actually meant something. Tuesday night, he called me from school. The kid had stayed after for baseball practice, and Chad was supposed to pick him up. 2 hours late, no response to texts. He was stranded again. "Dad, I know things are weird between us, but could you maybe give me a ride?" I tried calling Mom, but she's not answering either. I found him sitting on the school steps, the same spot where he'd waited for the bus weeks earlier. But this time was different. The kid looked genuinely grateful when I pulled up. On the drive to Amanda's, he tried to start a conversation. "You know what's crazy? Those guys were making fun of me for getting picked up by my dad instead of getting the Tesla treatment, but I realized something today." "What's that?" "You dropped everything to come get me. Chad would have made excuses and left me sitting there all night." The kid was finally understanding. "We were almost to Amanda's when Connor asked if he could visit the garage on Saturday. Not to ask for anything or make excuses, just to work on the Impala if you'll let me. Saturday morning, he showed up in work clothes instead of designer gear. The kid spent 4 hours helping me rebuild the transmission, getting his hands dirty like old times. He didn't complain once about missing whatever social event his friends were hitting. Around lunch, his phone buzzed with texts from his crew asking where he was. The kid glanced at the messages and turned the phone face down. "You don't need to skip hanging with friends for this," I told him. "Dad, I've been chasing fake friends while ignoring real family. These guys only wanted to hang when I had money to spend. You and Uncle Matt are here whether I deserve it or not." Matt looked up from the engine bay, wiping grease off a socket wrench. Kids finally learning. Better late than never. That afternoon, something happened that showed Connor was really changing. His friend Jake called, asking if Connor wanted to hit the mall. Said his older brother could drive if Connor pitched in for gas. "Can't today, man." Working on a project with my dad, Jake started giving Connor grief about wasting weekends in a greasy garage when he could be doing normal stuff. Connor's response surprised me. "Jake, have you ever built anything with your hands? Like, actually creating something instead of just buying it? Dude, that's what stores are for. Why would I build something when I can just get it? Because when you build it yourself, you understand how it works. My dad's teaching me skills that'll matter when your dad's credit cards get maxed out." The kid hung up and went back to work like nothing happened. But I heard him defend not just the garage but the lessons I'd tried teaching him. When he showed up the following weekend, he looked different, more mature, less entitled. We worked on the Impala for hours, and it was like old times. Chad's basically moved out. He's staying at his roommate's place most nights. Only comes around to get stuff. Mom keeps calling, trying to work things out, but he's done with both of us. "How's your mom handling it?" "Not great. She's embarrassed because all her friends saw her bragging about Chad on social media, and now everyone knows he dumped her. She's been asking about me moving back with you, but I think she's too proud to admit she screwed up. Her LinkedIn still says crypto strategist's wife. That's got to sting every time she opens a spreadsheet." Connor spent the whole weekend at my house. By Sunday night, neither of us wanted him to leave. "Dad, would it be weird if I wanted to live here full-time, not just visits, but actually move back?" I told him it wouldn't be weird at all. It would be the best thing that happened to me in years. 3 months later, Connor's living with me full-time, and it's like having my actual son back. The custody arrangement is officially changed. Connor requested it through the school counselor. Amanda didn't contest it. Hard to argue when your kid wants to live with a parent who gives a damn. Connor drives the Impala to school daily and treats it like the treasure it is. He gets more compliments than his friends with their hand-me-down Priuses. Connor learned the difference between earning respect and demanding it. He works part-time at AutoZone, pays his own gas and insurance, and never asks for money without offering to work for it. Matt treats him like the nephew he is. Tough love mixed with genuine pride. Connor's back to wearing work clothes instead of designer gear, getting his hands dirty, rebuilding carburetors and cleaning parts. Kid finally pulled his head out of Chad's rear bumper, Matt announced when Connor started showing up regularly again. We finished the Impala's engine rebuild together. The 396 big block with a mild cam, Edelbrock intake, and Holley double pumper makes about 425 horsepower. Connor did most of the assembly work himself, torquing rod bolts to spec and setting ring gaps by hand. The kid remembered everything I taught him before Chad poisoned his mind. He also started a YouTube channel about classic car restoration that's taking off. Matt appears in some videos, usually making fun of modern cars, while Connor explains engine rebuilds. Their chemistry is perfect. "Uncle Matt, what do you think about electric vehicles?" "I think they're great for people who don't understand real horsepower," Matt deadpanned into the camera. "Also, perfect for guys who lease Teslas to impress teenagers." Connor's subscriber count jumped after that video. The comment section was full of gearheads praising Matt's honesty and Connor's technical knowledge. The kids built a following of car enthusiasts who appreciate authentic content over manufactured flash. Amanda's now working 2 jobs to cover the rent Chad left her with. Crypto Prince had been using her credit cards to maintain his lifestyle, running up $15,000 in debt before disappearing. She discovered this when Chad's roommate called looking for unpaid rent. Apparently, Chad had been subletting a room and lying about having his own place. The credit card debt was just the beginning. Chad had convinced Amanda to invest her savings in his cryptocurrency portfolio, promising guaranteed returns. When his fake gains evaporated, so did Amanda's emergency fund. She went from thinking she'd married up to being financially ruined in 6 months. She tried calling me a few weeks ago, her voice completely broken, asking if Connor might want dinner with her. "He's avoiding me completely, won't answer texts, Doesn't want to visit. I know I screwed up, but he's still my son. I told her Connor's old enough to make his own decisions about relationships, and maybe she should focus on why he chose to live with his failure father. She tried reaching out to Connor directly last month, showing up at his AutoZone. Connor texted me immediately. Mom showed up at work trying to apologize again. Told her I needed time to think about whether I want her in my life. She started crying in the parking lot. I asked how he felt about that. Honestly, Dad, I feel bad for her, but I'm also angry. She chose Chad over me and you. She knew he was talking trash about you and encouraged it. Now that it blew up, she wants forgiveness. Smart kid's got solid judgment. He's not being cruel, just protecting himself from more manipulation. Connor's new friends love coming over to work on cars. My garage became the neighborhood hangout, with teenagers learning to change oil, replace brake pads, and understand how engines work. Connor's the teacher now, sharing everything I taught him. Matt supervises with his usual commentary. Half these kids can't even check tire pressure, but they think they're going to be influencers, Matt observed, watching Connor teach his buddy how to gap spark plugs. At least your boy's learning real skills. Last week brought the perfect ending to Chad's story. Connor came home with news that made my month dad, Uncle Matt, guess who's working at Subway in the mall food court. Matt looked up from the transmission he was rebuilding. Please tell me it's who I think it is. Chad had gone from fake crypto entrepreneur to sandwich artist. Connor's classmate took a picture and sent it around school. Guy who used to lecture me about success was asking if people wanted extra pickles. Funniest part was, he pretended not to recognize me when I walked by with friends, just kept his head down making sandwiches like we'd never met. Matt burst out laughing. From Tesla to turkey subs, that's some quality karma right there. The fall was spectacular. Chad's crypto investments turned out to be mostly Ponzi schemes and pump-and-dump scams. When the market crashed, he lost everything he'd borrowed against. The expensive apartment, the designer clothes. All gone when the credit cards maxed out. Chad's social media accounts are gone. His crypto meetup dissolved after members discovered he'd been lying about everything. Amanda dumped him when she realized he was broke and working food service. Connor doesn't think about Chad anymore. When people ask about his mom's ex, he says, some loser who thought he could buy respect with money he didn't have. The kid's moved on completely, focused on building his own future instead of dwelling on the past. Amanda's stuck wanting stability now but still judging men by earning potential instead of character. She learned nothing from the Chad disaster, still believing she deserves better than regular working guys who actually have their lives together. Connor's graduating in 2 months, accepted to Texas A&M for mechanical engineering. He's paying his own way with money saved from work, YouTube revenue, and a scholarship he earned for a project about electric vehicle conversions. The kid's got a solid plan that doesn't involve anyone else's money. The scholarship project was brilliant. Connor designed a conversion kit for classic muscle cars, combining vintage aesthetics with modern electric drivetrains. Judges were impressed by his technical knowledge and business plan. He's already got potential investors interested in licensing his design. Kid's going to be a better engineer than both of us, Matt told me last week. Watching Connor explain torque specifications to his YouTube audience. Connor's got character now, something money can't buy. Most importantly, Connor and I have a relationship based on mutual respect, instead of him tolerating me for financial support. He genuinely wants to spend time with his old man, learn skills, and build things together. The kid who called me a broke failure now brags about his dad, who saw through every fake person from day one and taught him real success comes from character, not credit cards. And that's living proof that sometimes the best thing you can do as a parent is hold your ground when it matters most, even if it means watching your kid learn hard lessons along the way. As Matt put it, kid went from crypto bro groupie to actual mechanic. Got to say, that's the best character development I've seen since Chad went from Tesla to please hold the mayo.